Hello, Erica. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. It's very nice to see you. Anything new happened recently? Any new exciting stuff going on?
Not
No,
really that I
not
can
really.
think of.
All right. Well, you know, the reason why you're here is because of some of the um, anger issues that we've been seeing pop up in class and around campus, and so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that today, if you're okay with that.
Sure.
And we're going to do kind of a little fun experiment along the way to help us out. You all right with that? Okay. So, as we mentioned, there are a couple times where teachers have come and talked to me because they've seen you get pretty irate, pretty upset in class over different things, to the point where it was a little disruptive, and the teachers were concerned about you. And so, since we're talking about anger, and I want to do this little project with you, let's try to come up with, well, if we were to give the problem a name, okay, what kind of name could you come up with for your problem, or for the problem that we're talking about?
Rage.
Rage is the name. All right. And is this way of talking about it okay for you right now? So if we're going to talk about what's going on, you're okay with this idea?
So far.
Okay, good. All right. So are there any times when you feel like rage has, or could you explain some times where rage has affected your life?
I don't know. I guess sometimes I get so angry that I can't keep control over what I say or what I do.
And so when rage comes around and is hanging out, actually, I want to do this first. I want you to pick one of these toys here that you feel represents the character Rage that we've been talking about. All right, good choice. Now, some of the issues with your anger and that the teachers and I have talked about is that you speak out in class when maybe it's not appropriate. And when that happens, it usually comes from that anger that you're feeling. It comes across very like you're angry when you're doing it. And so when we're talking about, we're going to name this guy Rage here, okay? And I want you to start thinking about what rage represents in your life. How how does rage trick you into blurting out those things in class?
Just when somebody acts in a way that I don't think is right, it makes me really angry, and I can't control my response to that.
Okay. And so, do you think rage is helping you be successful in the classroom, or do you think rage is not helping in that arena?
Probably not helping.
And is or does rage come out in other places? Does rage come and hang around you when you're at home?
Definitely.
And could you maybe give me some examples of when Mr. Rage there comes and hangs out at home?
Oh, like when my mom says I can't go to a party or something and she's being totally unreasonable, I guess there have been times when I've gotten, I've talked to her in a way that isn't very nice, and there have even been times when I've come at her physically.
So, rage is causing some issues with relationships with your mother, is
Definitely.
what it sounds like.
Yes.
And it's also, Mr. Rage there is causing some issues in the classroom as well, like we talked about. So, let me ask you this. If I had all magical powers, and I could give you this magic wand, and I handed you this magic wand, and you waved it around, and you woke up tomorrow and rage was gone, what do you think tomorrow would look like for you?
I'd be pretty happy.
Yeah? Can you explain a little bit more?
I just think maybe without that that anger, that I would be, more accepting of what's going on around me. It wouldn't bother me so much.
I really like how you talked about you being in control of the rage. You being something separate than that. Right? Okay. So let's go a little different route now. What do you think, when was the last time you were able to say, or can you explain maybe what the longest time you've gone without having Mr. Rage around?
I mean, really, I just feel like I get Mr. Rage when people are being unfair.
So Mr. Rage comes around when people are being unfair?
Yes. So I kind of, feel like it's dependent on how other people act, too, when it comes around. So maybe a couple weeks is the longest I can remember.
And so, and you mentioned that it's dependent on other people coming around. But what I want you to think about is, first of all, who's in control of we're all in control of our own emotions. Some people may struggle with managing those emotions. Like right now, when Mr. Rage comes around, you get pretty angry, you get pretty upset. You tend to speak out in class or whatnot. Well, let me ask you this: so you said you went a couple weeks without Mr. Rage visiting.
Probably when I was on vacation.
Okay. So, besides being on vacation, have you ever really stood up to Mr. Rage and said, you know what, this person is starting to annoy me a little bit, but I'm going to just let it go in one ear out the other and not let it affect me? Have you ever really tried to do that? Or you can say, you know what, Mr. Rage, I'm gonna put you in timeout, or I'm gonna put you off to the side right now.
I don't know that I've ever been able to do that. I mean, at most, I would say I've been able to walk away from someone when they're upsetting me.
Well, That's actually not a bad technique, is to be able to walk away from the situation. But when we walk away from situations like that, we tend to leave things unresolved. So we need to explore maybe some other routes that we can manage Mr. Rage here. So I want you to think again a little bit harder about maybe some times where, well, let's build off of what you just said. There was a time where you were able to walk away from somebody. What happened in that situation where you were able to say, you know what, I'm going to walk away instead of get angry?
Probably the sense that I'm going to get in trouble if I get angry right here.
Okay, so maybe it was led by fear a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what about let's see, what about when you are working with somebody in class and you can't walk away from them? You guys are collaborating on a project in class, and they're starting to annoy you. Has there ever been a time where you've been able to kind of stand up to Mr. Rage there and say, I'm not going to get angry, I need to do this collaboration project?
I guess, yeah, I've worked through something like that.
Okay. And so those times when you've been able to work through the anger problem that we're dealing with, and where you're able to check Mr. Rage on the side, and you know the times where you were able to walk away, for example, these are all things that you can carry around in your personal toolbox of ways to help manage the anger, right? And um, and you know there are. Can you think of some people that may be affected by you when Mr. Rage comes around?
Probably my friends and my teachers and my parents.
So yeah, definitely we talked about, you know, you getting into arguments with your mom, and we know that teachers are concerned about your anger levels in class sometimes. Uh, so those are two big ones for sure. And I mean, what do you think that those people, or as you continue to try to put Mr. Rage aside and say, I'm not going to get angry in this situation, right? What do you think? What do you think those people are going to feel? What do you think those people are going to see?
I think they're going to be surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You seem pretty happy about that. Is that you know, I'm just trying to understand your reaction a little bit more. Is that because?
I mean, I don't want to be known as being angry all the time.
Okay. And so I think that smile or that reaction would be you'd be probably putting a smile on their faces, right? By not getting angry all the time. Okay. And so as we continue to talk about this, and you are dealing with Mr. Rage and you're putting him off to the side, right? What do you think will be different about your future?
Might be a little more successful, I guess. I mean, if I can make it through situations where I wouldn't have been able to before.
So what I want to do next, okay, and this is something that I want you to take home and do, all right, because it's going to take some time, and I want you to do it in a quiet, safe place, like maybe in your room with no distractions around, right? And I want you to write a letter, and the purpose is to provide basically the people that have been the most affected by it, so your parents, your teachers, maybe some of your friends. And I want you to write a letter to them explaining how you're going to be different in the future. How you're checking Mr. Rage, and talk about the things we've talked about here in that letter. Say, I know that it affected you, and I want you to understand that I know it, and that I'm working on my anger issues. And I really want you to dive into this and make the letters really heartfelt and detailed as possible. Okay. And then we'll meet again in, let's say, another week to discuss how writing the letters went and see how you were able to stand up to Mr. Rage throughout the next week of school and your home life and all that. Think we can do that?
Yes.
All right, I'll see you in 1 week now.